Good evening, everybody. I can see we've got some attendees joining us. So I'm just going to give it a few more minutes as people are coming in, and then we will get started. Good evening, everyone. I can see that we've got attendees coming in. I am going to get us started. So my name is Julie Lawler. I'm the Executive Director with the WestShore Chamber of Commerce, and it is our pleasure to be hosting this All Candidates Forum for Colwood. I would like to start by acknowledging that the city of Colwood sits on the ancestral lands of the Tichamista and the Lekwungen-speaking peoples of the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations. I'm very grateful to be able to live on this land, and I acknowledge the unceded territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples who have been here and continue and will into the future be stewards of this land. Our moderator this evening is Mike Riley, so I would like to turn over to Mike to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Colwood All Candidates Forum. My name is Mike Riley, and I'm the past president of the WestShore Chamber of Commerce, and I'm pleased to be your moderator for this event. We've got a full evening planned, and if anyone is only able to attend for part of the forum, it is being recorded, and it will be posted to the WestShore Chamber's YouTube account later this week. Thank you to our Executive Director, Julie Lawler, for putting all of the organizing pieces together to host this. And thank you to all of our panelists for putting your name forward to be servants in our community. Of course, it's always a challenge to get the right balance between length of event and the opportunity for voters to hear from the candidates on a range of issues. This forum is not a debate, and it's that way on purpose so that there is no over-talking of one candidate over another. The evening will include opening statements, a selection of questions submitted in advance by Colwood voters, and already shared with the candidates, and closing statements. To ensure that voters can hear consistently from all of the candidates, there will be no questions from the floor at this event. During the event, our timekeeper, who is the Chamber President Ingrid Vaughn and an exacting person, she will be using the raise the hand function to indicate the time the candidate has 15 seconds left. When they're out of time, the hand will disappear, and there will also be an audio signal. The candidate will then be given a few additional seconds to wrap up, but then will be muted so that I can keep us on time. So let's get started. We're going to start with 3-minute opening statements by the 2 mayoral candidates, and then 2-minute statements by each of the council candidates. We'll be going alphabetically by last name with mayoral candidates going first, and I'd like to invite Doug Kobayashi to start us off.
You hear me okay?
Perfect.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Doug Kobayashi, and I'm here tonight to talk about the future of our community. The city of Colwood is at a crossroads. Trust, integrity, and transparency in our council are more important than ever for the people to have confidence in our municipal leadership. We need to work together in trust and good faith to confront big issues like housing, healthcare, transportation, and climate change. And we won't be able to meet the moment if the people we serve do not believe in the integrity of those who represent them. Good governance starts with listening to and respecting the people we serve, we were elected to serve, putting the needs of the community ahead of private interests, and seeking the best quality of life for the people we're elected to serve within our collective capacity to pay the bills. I believe we've strayed away from the grassroots of this wonderful community and what our residents truly value. We have development without adequate amenities to serve a rapidly growing and changing population. We're losing green space at a time when we should be working in harmony with the city's natural systems. And we're missing opportunities to truly innovate and attract new, higher paying, sustainable jobs that will enable more of our people to work closer to home. Many people I have met during this campaign are concerned about rising inflation and being able to maintain their quality of life. They're looking for proven leadership in these times of significant global change because they know how high the stakes are for all of us. After several years of rapid local growth, a global pandemic, and climate emergency, we had to have an opportunity to reflect and again review our official community plan in 2023. It will be more important than ever to listen to our community members and together chart the healthiest way forward for Colwood, including social programs that keep pace with our needs, performance-driven core services, progressive climate change leadership, great local jobs, and responsible development. We have an opportunity to embrace positive change and build a better Colwood for everyone, and I hope I can earn your trust. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doug. I now invite Rob Martin for his 3-minute opening remarks.
Thank you, Mike. I'm excited to share with you tonight some of the amazing successes Colwood Council has facilitated over the last 4 years and the goals behind those successes in the next 3 minutes. So I'm going to go fast. One of the first and most important things that I was proud about was that we saw a $24 million provincial investment in Indigenous housing on lands that sat empty for over 8 years and was known as the Whale Road Hole. In 2019, the grumpy taxpayers of Greater Victoria gave Colwood Council the Candy Cane Award for the best improved governance. That same year, Maclean's rated Colwood one of the 25 best communities to live in Canada and the second safest city in BC. We saw unprecedented investment in our community with a $100 million investment in the Allendale lands, welcoming some amazing employers and in employing jobs such as C-SPAN. We saw a $1.2 billion investment in Royal Beach. In Royal Bay, we saw work continue in Latoria North. We've seen the commercial zone prosper. We have a new supermarket opening up in 2023, as well as a daycare and a bank. And in the next 4 years, the build out of Latoria South with the goal of making Latoria South a master plan green development, which I will talk about later in a future question. But here are the really exciting firsts that I would like to share with all of you. In this last term, Colwood received its largest ever federal grant for the Galloping Goose overpass. We received the largest ever provincial investment through the Royal BC Museum's Archives and Collections building. That's a $200 million investment. That alone represented 600 construction jobs and over 300 long-term, high-paying jobs for our community. We saw the largest CRD investment in our community as they purchased 5 acres of land for a $220 million budgeted capital project to facilitate a 306-bed senior assisted living hospital. We've also saw our very first Colwood skateboard park that's going to be opening up at WestShore Park and Rec in March of this year. We also witnessed the most dollars ever spent on road and infrastructure improvements over this last 4 years. And a continued investment in active transportation as we built out our sidewalks and bike plans. When other municipalities focused inwards at the height of COVID, Colwood looked for opportunities. And the success that we had was because council had a vision for Colwood's future. People have asked me, what is my vision moving forward? And my answer is this. My vision is building a community for families. And I will stop.
Great. Thank you very much. That concludes the opening statements by the 2 mayoral candidates. The next segment will be opening statements of 2 minutes by each of the council candidates, beginning with Cynthia Day.
Hi, my name is Cynthia, and if elected again, by the end of this term, I'll be the longest serving councillor in Colwood's history. I've served on council since 2002 to represent the citizens of Colwood. Citizens should be informed regarding major council decisions with more notice when changes to the OCP are planned. I'm committed to supporting citizens' concerns regarding ever-increasing densities and the lack of a cohesive transportation plan. Our roads should be capable of moving all the people that have the privilege to live, work, learn, and play in Colwood safely by whichever method they choose, by foot, by bike, by mobility scooter, transit, or car, with better connectivity and reduced conflict. My Colwood will keep her trees, streams, and wetlands intact and offer beautiful surroundings to support you by mitigating our climate emergency and supporting our official community plan goals to work with our natural systems and not pay to replace them with less effective engineered models. I have lots of innovative ideas to solve our problems, but we need to work together to make them work for everyone because we need collaborative and collective input. I'm asking for your support for everyone so I can support you, the citizens, with better information and more consideration. Voting day on advance polls, Wednesdays, October 5th or October 12th, and on Saturday, October 15th, voting day. Vote for day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. We'll continue now with David Grove.
Hello, my name is David Grove. Good evening to you all. In 1995, my wife, Gwendolyn, and I, our two children, Julian and Timothy, 3 and 5 years old at the time, purchased Scandia Bakery, corner of Metchosin and Lagoon Roads. Following a long search, we had found a valuable and unique family-owned food business that was capable of fully supporting a family of 4. Paul and Åsa Rasmussen, who sold us the bakery, and whose son volunteered at the fire hall, asked our moving date and offered their help. When moving day arrived, 8 strong firefighters showed up across town with 4 large pickup trucks. They proceeded to load, then unload at the other end into our rental apartment near the bakery, our entire worldly belongings. When I asked them why they did this, the answer was that new folks in town deserved a strong welcome and a hand up for their fresh start in Colwood. What a start it was. Early mornings and hard work, 22 years of active, committed engagement. It's been fun. Having sold Royal Bay Bakery 5 years ago, I now have the time, desire, and energy to represent all citizens of Colwood and participate in matters of governance at City Hall. Many issues present themselves. Land use planning, parks planning, oceanfront access, zoning clearances, environmental response and treatment, transportation, road use, priority setting, official community plan observance and renewal, mixed housing design, healthcare guidance and supports, responsible spending, neighborhood density and protection, accessibility restoration and new builds, arts facilities, sports and community hall amenities. They all deserve a deep consideration. When these pillars of society are confident, safe and secure, well-fed and quiet, we may enjoy healthfulness at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. We'll now continue with Dean Jansen for his 2 minutes.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody, and good evening. My name is Dean Jansen. I'm one of your current council members since 2018, and I'm just crazy enough to put my name forward once again. For those who don't know me, my background is public safety, serving in my 27th year as a local police officer. I'm able to leverage this experience on behalf of our community and make sure that we continue to be one of the safest cities in BC. My Colwood, we're positive, we're happy, we're hopeful, and we see a bright future. We're welcoming and inclusive, and we invite everyone to live and enjoy our community. This is a wonderful place to raise a family, as we all know. We covered our green spaces, our parks, our beaches, something I will endeavor to expand and protect for future generations. The biggest issue in 2018 that I heard were the famous holes in the ground. Both of those have been fixed in this past term. The future is bright. We are growing as a community, whether we like it or not. We need to provide homes for those coming to our community, and we need to accommodate young people looking for their first rental, all the way up to seniors who wish to age in place here in Colwood. To help with this, we need a variety of housing stock, from condos, townhomes, apartments, single-family homes, tiny homes, cottages, what have you. We've increased our commercial tax base exponentially by bringing Allendale District and Royal Bay and Colwood Corners on board. We've built rentals for new people, and we welcome all. We've also created many jobs this term. I love what we've achieved this term and look forward to working hard for the community in the next 4 years. And I humbly ask for your vote once again in the upcoming election. Now, something of a tradition of mine, time for my annual haiku. Colwood wonderful, also very breathtaking, will love thee always. That's my mic.
Thank you very much, Dean. I feel the Zen washing over me. I'd now like to invite Kim Jordison for her 2 minutes.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kim Jordison. I'm originally from the East Coast. However, I've lived in and amongst the West Shore area since 1989 and in our current home in Colwood since 2014. I attended Dunsmuir Middle School and graduated from Belmont Secondary. My husband and I have raised three daughters in the West Shore. I currently work for Island Health, and prior to this worked for the provincial government for about 23 years. I'm passionate about our community and the current issues and challenges before us. I want to ensure the voices of our community are heard. I'm committed to listening and working with residents in having a say over decisions that affect their lives, their city, and their neighborhoods. I will work towards creating a better, stronger, more successful community for the next generation, while ensuring a better balance between spending and taxes. I'm committed to respecting the official community plan and working towards a community vision for all. I've heard your concerns about balancing growth and green space, protecting parks, attainable housing, doctor shortage solutions, community safety, lacking infrastructure updates, and community accessibility. We need to be thoughtful of what decisions we make today about the unique and special places of Colwood, because it's for those reasons that people want to live, work, and play here. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get busy. Please vote on October 5th, 12th, or 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And for those keeping score at home, we're now halfway through the candidates for council, which takes us to the letter M and Stephen Mccaskill.
Thank you, Mr. Riley, and hello, friends. I'm a proud Colwood kid. I was born here, and my family has a 30-year history here. I'm a business student at the University of Victoria, and for the last 3 years, I've worked part-time at the Alexander Mackie Lodge for seniors. I love my community, and I'm very pleased to have this opportunity. Did you know that Colwood has an above-average number of people under the age of 15 per capita? This means that in our not-so-distant future, an above-average number of kids are going to become an above-average number of adults, and they will want to find a home and establish their roots in this community. These are your kids, your grandkids we are talking about here. But the reality is, for most young people, many young families, single parents, as well as seniors on a fixed income, and many more, this is just not feasible, and it's only going to get worse unless we do something. If elected, I will advocate for the sustainable development of attainable housing and for expanding public transit. The research is clear that with thoughtful planning, these approaches are far better for the planet. They allow us to manage growth, reduce traffic and emissions, minimize the tax burden on homeowners, all while creating opportunities to build a vibrant, healthy community and giving your kids the opportunity to live in Colwood. My platform makes the future a priority, but equally important in the role of council is to steward the existing community. The real essence of the Colwood that I love comes from its established neighborhoods and the arts and culture scene that residents have carefully built. I want to go on record as saying, if elected, I will not lose sight of this. I will conclude by saying that different perspectives matter on municipal council. Municipal governments shape the communities of the future, and I believe that young people who are key stakeholders in the future should have at least one seat at this table. I hope that voters will vote for candidates who focus on pursuing positive vision for Colwood future, who can bring a positive and constructive work ethic to council. Thank you for your time and best of luck to my fellow candidates.
Thank you, Stephen. Just as a reminder, Mr. Riley is my father. Why don't we hear now from Misty Olsen?
Hi, everybody. That's a tough act to follow. Well done, Stephen. I just wanted to take a minute to give you a brief personal introduction. My name is Misty Olsen, and as some of you may remember me from running in the 2018 election. And while unsuccessful at the time, I'm back, and I hope to be elected for a seat on council this term. I was born and raised in Victoria, where I've spent much of my professional life as an entrepreneur, specifically in festival and event production of all scales and budgets. I purchased my first home in Colwood 9 years ago with my husband, Grant, where we both hold an active business license. We have 2 school-aged children and 2 crazy dogs that make up our little family. Our kids are actively involved in the Girl Guide community, and we are tireless Wanda Fuca Royal Swim Club parents. We are deeply rooted to this community in so many ways, and we feel blessed to have had the opportunity to make Colwood our home. I believe that communication is essential to a healthy relationship. I do not view myself as a politician. I am a member of the community, just like you, that cares a whole lot about its people and their quality of life. I will always be transparent and honest, and I will work hard to seek solutions to problems and concerns we face as a community together. I promise, if I do not know the answer, I will seek it. If I do not understand something, I am committed to taking the time to find the answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Misty. Our penultimate speaker is Stuart Parkinson.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you to the Chamber for organizing this tonight. My screen's telling me I'm asked to start my video. I think I'm okay there.
You're on, but you're in outer space.
Yeah, well, as I should be, a space cadet on council. So 4 years ago, I put my name forward to run for council for the first term. I did so because I had retired from a 30-year career as a professional engineer and a small business owner in the West Shore, and I felt I had a lot to offer the community. A lot of my work had been within Colwood and around Colwood, and I felt that I would hit the table with some knowledge. And perhaps I did have some knowledge and skills, but what I realized very quickly after getting on council was the depth and breadth of issues that came to council on a regular basis, the issues that needed to be faced, the balance that had to be done between development, green space, creating jobs, active transportation versus the traffic issues. So there was a lot of learning for me in the first 4 years. I suspect my colleagues would all agree with that. But I do think that we have moved forward. And as I've been telling people on the doorstep, as much as we think everything is slow in the municipal world, it is slow, and it's slow because there's a lot of things to juggle and balance. I've tried to do my best on that. One of the things that I'm proudest of my 4-year term was in my first meeting with the mayor, and he asked me what were my issues, what did I want to work on in the 4 years? And I had suggested that time that there seemed to be a lot of confusion around the waterfront. I had been to a previous meeting at council where on the same night, the council had elected to look at beach nourishment, placing sand to protect the lift station and to move the lift station. And I felt that there was something lacking there in understanding was which one was preferable, what was it. I can tell you that, oh my goodness, the hand's up already. Well, I can tell you we've done a lot of work on the waterfront. We have made some major steps. We're not quite there yet, and I will talk again later. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. And I'm going to ask Ian Ward to bring the 2 minutes home. You're on mute. Perfect.
Well, there we are. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. And good evening to my mayoral and council candidates and fellow residents of Colwood. My name is Ian Ward, and I put my name forward so that I may earn your trust, learn about your concerns and your hopes for our community, and ultimately earn your vote so that I may have the privilege to act as your voice on Colwood Council. Colwood is in the midst of unprecedented growth. Emergent and legacy neighborhoods are attracting new residents with the promise of a vibrant sense of community, nearby schools, parks, and services, and a relaxed, peaceful quality of life that stands in contrast to our neighboring municipality. With this unprecedented growth, though, comes challenges and a very specific need for leadership, citizen engagement, communication, and strong fiscal management. I'm a business leader and a family man, not a politician. The day-to-day focus for my family and I, like many of you, is on balancing work and life, playing sports with JDF, school and SD 62, and socializing with our neighbors. It was in the latter context that I was drawn into local issues when my neighbors, exasperated at being ignored, asked me to be their voice before council. This grassroots volunteer effort led to continued efforts on behalf of my neighborhood and other regions of Colwood to help ensure that residents would be heard by those making decisions that impacted their quality of life. Friends, we have a great opportunity in Colwood over the next 4 years to ensure that decision-making at council considers and benefits you, the residents of Colwood. We are all aware that we have long-standing infrastructure needs, higher than average taxes, and looming traffic and transportation concerns. Yet we also have the promise of a true waterfront regional destination, new commercial growth, and the realization of our citizen-driven official community plan. This overarching OCP provides the roadmap for us to realize the best for Colwood. This new council must recommit to our OCP and recommit to proactive community engagement. If you entrust me with your vote, I will make this commitment and be beholden not to outside interests, but to you, the voters, taxpayers, and residents of Colwood. Please let me be your voice on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you, candidates, for your candid opening statements. And you've given a lot of things for everyone to think about. Next, we're going to move on to the questions. And in order to avoid voters listening to 10 responses to the same questions all at once, the candidates have been divided into 2 separate groups. All candidates in both groups will be asked 4 core questions and 2 randomly drawn questions. The candidates in Group A are Dean Jansen, Stephen Mccaskill, Rob Martin, Misty Olsen, and Stuart Parkinson. The remaining candidates will be in Group B. We use the Google random number generator to determine who would go first in answering questions, and we're just telling candidates about this now. So, surprise, Misty Olsen will go first, and then we will take it in turn alphabetically. Candidates, you have 1 minute to answer each question, and you will see the raised hand from our timekeeper when you have 15 seconds left. I hope that makes sense to everyone. So, Misty, the first question is, as a retired person living in Colwood, I have found that many of my neighbors do not have a family doctor and are forced to rely on ER services. If you are elected, what will you do to help fix this crisis? You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Mike. It has been suggested to me that council should stay in their own lane, so to speak, that the healthcare crisis is not a municipal issue. And I do not believe that that is accurate. I do believe that there are things that we can do and influence from a municipal level. And I think that we need to start thinking outside the box to address the issue with a grassroots approach in our communities. I am committed to supporting and bringing to light programs like Healthy WestShore, which is actively responding to the current challenges we are all facing in our healthcare system. I have taken the Community Healthcare Support Network pledge to prove my intention and commitment to finding realistic solutions in an ongoing effort to attract and retain healthcare workers and emergency personnel in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. Now, the same question to you, Stuart Parkinson.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. As a retired person myself, I can understand the challenges people are facing. We've had our doctor, family doctor of many years, retire. Neither my wife or I were taken on by his replacement. My daughter was, a couple of her kids weren't, her husband wasn't. It's a nightmare. I believe that in this issue, as in many, there's times to lead and there's times to support. And I think that what we need to do is support the efforts of the provincial government to increase healthcare services in any way it can be. I don't think we want to go at cross purposes or pretend that we can provide answers and for Colwood specific solutions, because of course the provincial rules are such that the healthcare is spread throughout the region. We couldn't monopolize anything within Colwood. So on this one, I would be more of a supporter than a leader, I must admit. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. And now, Dean Jansen, you have 1 minute to address the same question.
Hello, and thank you, Mike. Along the same lines, I do believe that the city does need to stay in its lane. And we've had council members say this across the table, including myself, where I believe the community can show some leadership is in our advocacy with VHA, with the government, with ministers, with the premier, with our MLAs, with our cabinet ministers. And my expectation is that our mayor and council members, for that matter, will be out hustling, working over senior levels of government to help express the city's interests, because these are serious issues. I'm lucky enough to have a doctor. Other things we can consider. If there's a group of doctors that want to get together and move to our community, things like removing red tape, helping them build their office, giving them quick permits, maybe easing the burden by the way of tax easement for a number of years. Those kind of things we could do. Things like, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean. Stephen Mccaskill, the same question to you.
We all know that the government of British Columbia and health authorities have known about this impending crisis and have yet to take any meaningful steps. It is their responsibility, and we must be careful not to allow them to download this responsibility or cost onto us. But local governments do have the important role of holding higher levels of government to account. And furthermore, if municipalities band together, they can have an even more significant impact on provincial policy. All that said, Colwood is an amazing place, and who wouldn't want to set up a life and perhaps a medical practice here? I'm a young person, so perhaps we can create incentives for doctors and nurses to move here. We could conduct an across-Canada social media blitz showcasing the community to physicians, nurses, and students in medical training. Currently, the cost of a medical degree can be prohibitive. I've talked to young people that do not think they can afford the tuition to go to medical school and don't even apply. I plan to investigate the feasibility of establishing a grant to encourage students from Colwood to continue their studies in the medical field.
Thank you, Stephen. And the last comments will come from Rob Martin.
Thank you. Stephen actually basically might as well have stolen my notes, because that was exactly what I was about to say as well, that we need to ensure and understand that ultimately this is the responsibility of the province, and we can help facilitate certain things. And I'll give an example. In Royal Bay, this last council, we looked at rezoning and changing the zoning to allow more medical offices in the commercial zone of Royal Bay. There are things like that that we can absolutely do and support. But what I do want to be clear, and what I am not supportive of, is I refuse to allow the downloading of provincial responsibility, financial responsibility, onto the municipal taxpayer. This is the responsibility of the province. They need to be paying for that. They need to be stepping up. We as a jurisdiction of the city of Colwood absolutely will be engaged. And I guarantee you, it doesn't matter who sits at the council in this next 4 years. I know all of us would be engaged to support medical services landing here within Colwood. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Rob. And as a reminder to our viewers on the Zoom call today, that same question will be posed to the other 5 candidates. So you will get an opportunity to hear their views on this same important subject. So the next question, Stuart is going to start us off with. The question is, what specific actions do you want the City of Colwood to take to address climate concerns? And that's to Stuart Parkinson.
Yeah. So it's telling me I'm unable to start video because the host has stopped it. Let me try again. Oh, well, there I am somehow. Somebody fixed it. Thank you. So the climate crisis in Colwood is real as it is everywhere else. I spoke quickly about some of the work that we have done on understanding the sea level rise and how it will affect our foreshores and waterfront. So I'll skip over that. Hopefully people got enough sense of my passion there. As a council, we have looked at one of the main contributors to climate change from our community is existing buildings, and how can we promote heat pumps, energy efficiency, and that kind of thing. Obviously would continue along those lines, continue the promotion of electric vehicles and the charging infrastructure. But perhaps the one thing that I would like to see in perhaps the next 4 years is a sensible timeline is a hydrogen refueling station in the area. There is one within CRD at present over in Saanich somewhere, but that's not very appealing to initiate hydrogen vehicle purchases. So that might be a good way to go to expand that network within our community. And I see my time's up, so thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. You're going to be followed by Dean Jansen.
Thank you, Mike. Climate change. I'm going to take a little bit of a different tact here. Breaking news, everybody, the climate is changing. It is having an effect on us around the globe. It's impacting us as a city. Floods, road washouts last fall, wildfires seem to be the norm rather than the exception. Having to close the lagoon for debris that gets tossed up at high tide. Things are changing. So are we prepared as a community? Do we have the infrastructure in place? Do we have an earthquake-proof EOC center? The answer is no. We would like to work in that direction. Do we have the vehicle assets necessary to attend emergencies in our community as they happen, which we know they will? Do we, obviously, a fleet of electric vehicles isn't going to cut the mustard if the power is out for weeks on end. So things like that, we need to prepare ourselves that way. We all know the things we need to commit to do our part to stop the climate from changing. But I think some of these changes are here now. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dean. Stephen, the climate change concerns to you.
Thank you for this question. It really speaks to the heart of my platform. So based on research from the OCP, transportation accounts for 66% of Colwood's greenhouse gas emissions. This makes sense as 86% of commuter trips in Colwood occur in a personal vehicle. This is a high number compared to similar municipalities. Just 2% of Colwood's population lives within a 5-minute walk to a grocery store, and just 13% within a 10-minute walk. If we want to address climate concerns in Colwood in a meaningful way, we need sustainable solutions that allow people to step away from their cars for everyday trips to school, work, and other necessities. I support a high land use mix. This means integrating businesses with residential dwellings, creating neighborhoods in which residents are in close proximity to amenities and services that they need on a daily basis. I also support focusing densities along transit routes. Together, these strategies give people the options other than cars, so it addresses climate concerns by reducing emissions and at the same time promotes health and supports social well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Rob Martin, we'd like to hear from you now.
Thank you. I want to talk about an actual meeting that I had. And that meeting was on August 3rd. And it was a meeting I had organized with the developers of Gablecraft, our MLA Mitzi Dean, and Cabinet Minister Ralston, who is responsible for BC Hydro. The reason I organized the meeting was that Latoria North in Royal Bay Housing has Fortis gas heat pumps. Why? Because it's $35 a lot cost to the developer to do that. Latoria South needs to be a master plan green development using electric heat pumps, moving away from carbon-based options. However, that's a minimum cost of $2 million to bring that hydro investment into Latoria North. Explaining that to the minister and explaining that from a provincial standpoint, they have aspirations as well to build a green community. Minister Rolstad promised to me that he would take this back to the cabinet to have that further discussion to help us facilitate this as we move forward into 2023. Thank you.
And thank you, Rob. So Misty Olsen, please tell us what your specific actions would be.
Hi. So climate change has a huge impact on not only our ecosystems, but on our overall general health and quality of life. And we all know that to our very core. I do believe that small changes and shifts in our behavior can have significant impact. I believe we need to start at the foundation, and that begins with education at home and in the school system. I think that we should work collectively with the school district and other levels of government to educate and encourage behavioral change and attitude towards climate change and its long-term effects if we don't take action. One specific thing that I would like to see the city champion is to expand on the concept of Eat Your Boulevard that was established during pandemic times. There's a significant opportunity here to educate the community on the importance of food security at a local level. I believe that we must continue to educate and reprogram our way of thinking, which in turn, I believe will help reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Misty. 5 very different answers to that question. So Dean, you're going to start us off with question number 3. Affordable housing. Affordable housing is no longer just a Victoria problem. It is a regional issue. What will you do to help alleviate this issue?
Thank you, Mike, not Mr. Riley. We do need to build. We can't build our way out of this completely, but we do need to build. We need to be creative with how we build, some multi-generational housing, some infill, some cottages, some carriage homes, what have you, some creativity, the ability for people and builders to come forward and propose some novel ideas that might not exactly fit with our bylaws, some accelerated zoning and permits for those developments that make sense, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and anything for a developer, but making sure that we're protecting the interests of the community. An interesting story from the mayor of Burnaby at the UBCM. He said affordability and numbers of houses don't really equate. He says, come on over and try and buy a place at Metrotown, which should be the cheapest place in Canada, you know, to buy a place. And that's just not the case. So this is a complex issue. And I think there's small things we can do. And a lot of it has to do on the zoning and the red tape and on that side of the house that we have control over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean. Stephen, I'll invite you to answer the same question.
Thank you. This is another topic that is central to my platform, as I myself am a casualty of the housing crisis, as are many of my peers. Renting a place on my own, never mind buying, is way out of reach. Although a mid-sized municipality can by no means fix the housing crisis, there are steps that we can take. As stated earlier, I believe that with thoughtful planning, we can relieve some of the pressure without sacrificing the things that are really important, like habitat, access to outdoor spaces, and the character of our neighborhoods. In fact, if done well, we can create even more opportunities for people to enjoy the best Colwood has to offer. I support increasing the stock of purpose-built rental accommodations and condos available in Colwood, not just $800,000 townhouses that rent at over $3,000 if they ever come on the market. We have to go further, and not only because it's the best thing for the environment, but also because your kids, other young people, single-parent families, seniors on a fixed income, military families, and service and retail workers should all be given an opportunity to live in Colwood. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Rob Martin, affordable housing to you, please.
Thank you. And again, I would like to point to my record and to the record of this council and how supportive we have been about ensuring that we're building for all economic situations. And I point to an article written by Citified, and in 2021, the city of Colwood led the way with over 350 unit completions, at which most of them were at the Colwood Corners locations beside Souk Road. 2/3 of the inventory was affordable housing. In second place was the city of Victoria, In third place was the city of Langford. It demonstrates that we understand that we are not just a single family housing community, that we understand that we need to continue to build diverse housing. I see your hand, so I'll finish there. Thanks.
Thank you for respecting the time, everyone. Misty, let's hear from you.
Thank you, Mike. I think it is imperative that we focus on building housing for everyone at all stages of life and all income levels. One way to help alleviate the issue at hand, if elected, I would begin by reevaluating the permit process to identify any areas that may be causing unnecessary roadblocks. If we can streamline and fast track our internal systems, I think that this might help to encourage a much needed increase of diverse inventory to our communities, such as the need for garden homes, carriage houses, suites, and other rental buildings.
Thank you. And finally, Stuart.
Thank you. I'm going to take a little different tack because, quite frankly, this subject of housing and the need for more housing has been very prominent in the news, but it doesn't apply to Colwood. As the mayor pointed out, Colwood has done an excellent job of creating rental housing. We've zoned recently a couple of sites at the VMP Souk intersection, ideal with being on transit routes, and at the intersection, I don't know how many units there were, maybe 400 in total, including a substantial number of 3-bedroom units, which are rare. So the council has created a lot of zones for a lot of different types of units. We have led the way in non-market housing throughout the region. And we have to be quite clear that there are regional issues, but we're doing our share already, and we can hold our head up, and the land is zoned and ready to go. And I know there's a lot of other issues which reduce the ability to build all this, and it'll take some time, but we're in good shape. As Colwoodians, we can hold our heads up and be very proud of what we've done on this file. Thank you.
And thank you, Stuart. And our last core question is going to be introduced by Stephen. So the question is, Colwood Council, and in full disclosure, this question relates to the recommendation for remuneration. And I chaired that committee that made the recommendation to bring council and mayor remuneration up to comparable levels to other municipalities. So with that having been said, Stephen, Colwood Council recently approved almost a doubling of the remuneration to be paid to the new incoming council. Do you support this? Why or why not?
Well, there's certainly a lot of negative campaign rhetoric on this topic, and I'm really disappointed that it is distracting from what really matters, that being population growth and climate change. I do agree that this seems to be a big raise, especially at a time when so many people are struggling. But with that being said, publicly available data shows Colwood was well below the compensation curve, so a review was warranted, and it was conducted by an independent committee made up of knowledgeable members of the public. Perhaps some candidates have evidence to question the integrity of this public process, but I have no firsthand knowledge of this, so it would be highly disingenuous right at election time for me to suddenly say, I do not agree. It's not my place, and I won't jump on any bandwagon just to get votes. I support ethical and transparent public processes, and I value and respect community input. This issue will soon be resolved to the satisfaction of the public one way or another, and when that happens, I will accept the result and do my job. What matters now, and the only thing that will matter in 10 years, are the issues that will impact your future and your kids' future. Population growth, environment, housing, and traffic. These are the issues that should matter in this election. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Rob Martin, you're up next.
Thank you. And again, it's very hard to follow Stephen because I concur with a lot of what he just said. We went through a public process where council passed the terms of reference. And that terms of reference was to send it to a public committee, which you've already heard from Mike. And it was proposed. This should not, and let me be clear, this should not be a decision of council. This was a recommendation that was coming and moving to the next council. And truth of the matter is, the next council, if the people who get elected feel like it's too high, they have every opportunity to lower it at that point. But I think the work that the committee did was excellent. And I think, again, I think it's disingenuous to suggest that we shouldn't be following what the public suggests to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Same question to you, Misty. Your opinion on the remuneration.
Okay, my opinion on the increased remuneration for mayor and council is quite frank. Actually, I believe that the review was certainly overdue, and that an increase was indeed warranted. However, I believe that it was too much too fast. I believe that a phased-in approach to the increase would have been much more palatable for taxpayers. I mean, everybody's wallets are very strained right now. And it's just a different world post-pandemic. So again, I would have been happy with a phased-in approach, but as it was, I would not have supported the hard and fast raise given at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. Same question to you, Stuart.
Thank you, Mike. I accepted the results of the committee, but my concerns were relating to the fact that I do believe that serving on council is a public service. I think there's many ways that citizens in our community provide public service. I talk about my friends who I often see collecting trash around the community. We have people, looking after Havenwood Park. We have a number of people who put into this community on a volunteer basis. And to some extent, I think council has to recognize that they should be doing the same. This is passed, and as I mentioned last night, I'm a big boy. I can, if I'm uncomfortable with what it is, I can make donations to cover off what I believe is my public service obligations. So I did, in fact, vote in favor of the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. And our last comments will come from Dean Jansen.
Thank you so much. I supported this. I voted for it all the way along, and it was the right thing to do, and I'm completely comfortable with it. So I do own my vote. No one should ever have to choose, and I said this publicly, should never have to choose between possibly working a few hours a day between kid pickup and drop off or vice versa, and meaningful community service. They should never have to choose. It is unrealistic. This is not the 1950s. Dad doesn't go to work and mom stays home and takes care of everybody. It's a two parent work from both parents is what's required. So basically, it's not a big ask. It is a big increase, but it's like going from peanuts to popcorn now, for goodness sakes. It's about $100,000 or just above on a $40 million budget that's managed by this council. That is not much to ask. I'm willing to open my pocket and pay that for us. I'm adamant that we leave this better than we found it. And I think that we've achieved that. Where we go from here now is just slight occasional increases with cost of living. And I think we're in a good spot. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dean. And thank you to everyone. You have made it through the first round of the 4 core questions. Everyone can take a deep breath. We are now moving on to ask the candidates to answer from a set of randomly drawn questions, also submitted by the community, and we'll continue on alphabetically by asking Rob Martin to go next. Candidates were provided with these 10 questions in advance, but they don't know which questions they will be asked. The Google random number generator was used to determine which questions would be asked and in which order. So, to get as many questions as possible, once a question has been asked twice during the evening, it will be removed from the selection. Candidates, once again, you have 1 minute to answer each question, and you will see the raised hand from our timekeeper when you have 15 seconds left. Make sense to everyone? Excellent. So, Rob, the first randomly selected question is, recruiting and retaining top talent at all levels of an organization seems to be a very common theme among businesses in the West Shore. In addition to affordability and healthcare, people are looking for robust community service such as childcare options, youth engagement programs, after-school programs, and family support programs. What can we do as a community of leaders to add such beneficial recruitment and retention features to our regional offering for workers?
Yeah, so for Colwood, one of the greatest selling points that we have is our natural assets. As I mentioned in my opening, Colwood is recognized as one of the top 25 places in Canada to live. We're the top 2 from a safety standpoint. That is naturally attracting incredible talent. And when we focus on our waterfront and all of the natural resources that exist around there, we've noticed come COVID how important our communities and our neighborhoods are. And I think we have continued to build that support system in place to pull people into it. The struggle we have is affordability. And the struggle is we can attract people who are wealthy. We need to figure out, how do we attract the service workers so that they can also stay within our communities. See the hands, so I'm stopping.
Great, thank you, Rob. I know I can speak for everyone online. We'd love to hear what everyone else has to say about this topic, but there just isn't enough time for all of that. So, Misty, the next question to you, please roll up your sleeves. Define how you would support sustainable arts and culture programming in Colwood, and describe a specific funding model that you would endorse to make this happen.
Thanks, Mike. I think that Colwood is full of artistic inspiration. I think if we all just take a look at what artist Paul Lewis has done to our beautiful lagoon with his colorful creatures, I'm a big advocate for celebrating community culture and togetherness through self-expression and other cultural programming. I do believe that with better planning and communication, the city of Colwood could budget for the addition of more artistic expression in and around our own community by local artists. You could expand on this by attaching a local business to a sponsor, to sponsor a specific project or program. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Misty. Stuart, the next question is, will you support the amalgamation of municipalities of Greater Victoria, including Colwood, into one municipality of Victoria?
No.
Thank you. Oh, you have more.
I suppose I should expand on that a little bit. No, you know, there may be moves afoot to combine some municipalities in some ways. There are absolutely theoretical efficiencies and economies to amalgamating. I can see that. I recognize it. There's also a lot of experience out there, anecdotal, that says, well, that's what people thought when they amalgamated Halifax as an example, Toronto's another one, where those efficiencies and economies just frankly didn't work. I believe strongly that people like to be able to approach their council in the grocery store, when they're watching their kids or grandkids play soccer. As we get too big, we lose that contact with our political appointees. And so I think that's probably the death knell of too large of an amalgamation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Dean, you are up next for this question. Do you agree that Colwood should join the almost 50 cities and municipalities in BC that have already banned pesticides for cosmetic use on lawns, including herbicides such as PAR 3?
Thank you, Mike. This is a good one. We know that some herbicides and pesticides have a connection in affecting our pollinators. And obviously this is an issue. If we all, I'm presuming that all of us like to eat, and as a result, pollinators are a necessity. Now, interestingly, I sponsored a bylaw change this past term regarding rodenticide. So I would personally strongly advocate for some changes in this regard. And I believe that restricting sales of certain categories of chemicals would go a long way to serving this end. So I am happy to move in this direction and move Colwood in this direction. I think Colwood would be pleased if we did. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Stephen, for you, the next question is, our neighborhood has a number of traffic safety concerns, and it doesn't feel like we're being listened to. If elected, how will you seek to answer citizens' complaints with appropriate follow-up and canvass neighborhoods before actions take place?
Yeah, awesome question. So I support thorough assessment of any traffic safety concerns, and I would rely on engineering and police experts for safety assessments. I support neighborhood surveys and robust data-based evaluations to inform decision-making. All that said, I realize that assessments of complaints do not always yield the results that complainants are hoping for. And when that happens, people can feel unheard, unsupported, and frustrated. So in addition to thorough investigations, I support the notion of procedural justice. My mother was a police officer for almost 3 decades, and we've often spoke about this subject. Procedural justice speaks to the idea of fair process and how a person's perception of fairness is strongly impacted by the quality of their experience and not just getting the outcome they wanted. An individual's perception of justice also depends on whether they felt heard, whether they felt respected, whether the decision maker was neutral and transparent, and whether they conveyed trustworthy motives. I believe if we keep these parameters of good process in mind, that most complaints can be resolved to the satisfaction of the complainants. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So all of the candidates in Group A have had a chance to answer 1 round of random questions. And for those of you new to the political system, that was the equivalent of rapid fire. We'll go through 1 more round, and then we will take a short break before moving on to Group B, who are waiting patiently. So the second round of 1-minute individual questions, we're going to start with you, Rob, again, thanks to the random generation. And the question is, do you agree that Colwood should join the almost 50 cities and municipalities in BC that have already banned pesticides for cosmetic use on lawns, including herbicides such as PAR3?
Yeah, so exactly the way Dean Jansen has just commented. We went through this with rodenticide, and there was a really strong argument, and we understood about how that pollutant was not only killing the rat, but it was getting into the owl and getting into the food chain, and that we needed to be very careful about that. Absolutely, that we need to be protecting our planet and looking and being innovative. The one caveat, though, is that we have to ensure that we're not tying our hands on something for example, something that needs to be killed and we can't figure out how to kill it otherwise than using it. But from a general standpoint and a general principle standpoint, absolutely, we need to be doing that. So highly supportive of this, and would support it if it came forward at a council meeting. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Rob. Misty, over to you for the next question. Property taxes are substantially higher for businesses than residential. What are your views on this?
Thank you, Mike. We all want to attract more business into our communities. More business equals more jobs for our citizens, and I am an advocate for the live, work, play lifestyle. I think that we need to be creative with our taxing model for businesses that are looking to set up shop in our communities. I am open to exploring and supporting tax breaks for the first 5 years while a business is being established in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. Stuart, to you on the far reaches of the universe, you get the next question. Will you support and advocate for the expansion and continuance of sewer lines to get constituents of Colwood attached to the CRD sewer program?
Oh boy. To be honest, there are parts of the city which really should be sewered, primarily up on Triangle Mountain. That was always an issue that the soils there were not suitable for septic. A lot of our city is well served by septic fields. Now these septic fields are getting old, and I understand people are making the sort of rational judgment about, should I replace my septic field or should I connect to an existing sewer? And frankly, that's up for people to decide. If they want a sewer line extension, that quite process is laid out to create a petition of their neighbors, come to the city. The city would borrow the money, put in the sewer, and they would pay back for over 15 years or 30 years, whatever it may be. Septic systems work very well within our gravelly area of Colwood, as you like. So I wouldn't be pushing people in that area of town to switch, but if they wanted to, they could go through the process. I think perhaps at some point we're going to have to address Triangle Mountain and do a little better job of sewering that part. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Dean, you also get a repeat question. Recruiting and retaining top talent at all levels of an organization seems to be a very common theme among businesses in the West Shore. In addition to affordability in healthcare, people are looking for robust community services such as childcare options, youth engagement programs, after-school programs, and family support programs. What can we do as a community of leaders to add such beneficial recruitment and retention features to our regional offering for workers?
Thanks, Mike. Interestingly, I don't believe the number one issue is remuneration or a paycheck. We talk to people, they want to move here because it's here and it's us, and we offer many of the things that have been said already. I listened to a great seminar at the UBCM talking about the issues with our labor force, with the baby boomers approaching retirement right here, getting close, tail end of the baby boom. And many have left during the COVID apocalypse over the past few years, which has strained our workforce. Things that we can do: can we offer flexible working arrangements, work from home, flexible hours to accommodate kid pickup and drop off? Can we even invest in something like a daycare for our employees and our staff? It's things like that that will attract the talent, but also keep the talent. Also a culture. Are we building a culture that's suitable, that people want to work at? We know that all these things help, and money is not everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. And Stephen, please keep this high energy level interlocution going with the final question of the round. Will you support and advocate for bike and pedestrian lanes? If so, where do you believe they are needed?
Yeah, that's a great question. Once again, it's right in line with my platform. So absolutely. A big part of my platform is improving the public transit system, and this includes creating conditions where residents can safely step away from their cars and still get to where they need to go. As I said earlier, 86% of commuter trips in Colwood occurred in a personal vehicle, and just 2% of Colwood's population lives within a 5-minute walk of a grocery store. In Colwood, we need to promote a high land use mix in our neighborhood so people can walk and bike to necessities such as work and school. We also need alternative transportation options, which can be achieved by focusing density along transit routes and connecting trails for foot and bike traffic. These approaches are not only better for the planet, but they also promote health and social well-being. Right now, I see big gaps in safe bike and walking trails along Latoria and Machosen Road. I think we should prioritize bike and pedestrian lane routes that feed into schools and then expand from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you to all of our candidates for their excellent questions through that portion. We have done a remarkable job in staying relatively close to time. We're only 2 minutes over as we come into our break time. We're scheduled to come back at 7:45, so if it's okay with all of the candidates, I would like to respect the time of those who have registered to attend this, and make sure that we're back at 7:45. So please take a, well, now 7-minute break. Get yourselves ready, and please don't fail to stretch, and we'll come back with Group B starting again at 7:45. Excellent. And we are back. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to questions with Group B. And for everyone on who's participating here today, thank you for the contributions during the first portion. Because the candidates aren't aware, they can't see who's on, I wanted to let them know that they're not just speaking into the void. We do have local citizens on. We've had as many as over 80 on at any one time, and we seem to be settling around 70 as people come in and on. I want to say a special hello to my wife, Karen, who I know is on. So we are moving on to the next round. And those of you who are just joining us, in order to avoid the voters listening to 10 responses to the same questions all at once, the candidates have been divided into 2 groups, and we're moving on to that Group B now, where all the candidates will be asked 4 core questions and 2 randomly drawn questions. So the candidates in Group B are Cynthia Day, David Grove, Kim Jordison, Doug Kobayashi, and Ian Ward. As we did in Group A, we used the Google random number generator to determine who would go first in answering questions. And we're just telling candidates about this now. So Ian Ward, you will go first, and then we'll take it in turn alphabetically. Candidates, you each have 1 minute to answer each question, and you will see the raised hand from our timekeeper when you have 15 seconds left. So Ian, let's get your camera on here. Dynamite. So, as a retired person living in Colwood, Ian, I have found that many of my neighbors do not have a family doctor and are forced to rely on ER services. If you are elected, what will you do to help fix this crisis?
Great question, Mike. And as someone who's lost a family doctor, I can tell you here in the West Shore, I'm a proponent of the Saunders Family Foundation Community Healthcare Support Network Pilot Project, or CHSN, and the work they've undertaken in partnership with the West Shore Primary Care Society and Thrive Social Services. So their observations are many, Mike, but specific to Colwood, they highlight the need for greater emphasis on community and social planning to attract, retain, and support healthcare workers. At the municipal level, we have our limitations. However, the onus is on us to firmly establish Colwood as a strong pillar of the healthcare support ecosystem. We must signal our willingness to engage and work in partnership with regional and higher levels of government, the development community, and local business and community organizations. Our role is critical in that we can support social planning and the development of purpose-built housing, medical facilities, and other support facilities. As the CHSN states, the municipal level can play an integral role in investing in infrastructure, providing grants and funding to key programs, and convening many parties to come together to help solve healthcare system challenges. The council table, this is accomplished by rising to the leadership challenge through concrete action, entrenchment of these actions in our OCP, and an open commitment to driving forward local initiatives so that we can deliver services to Colwood residents. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Mike.
And thanks, Ian. I know a minute goes by fast. Cynthia Day, it's your turn to answer this question.
Hi there. So Colwood Council should lobby the province to increase the number of doctors, something that we actively participated in with doctor organizations and their supports from 2014 to 2018. While we can't solve this alone, we can offer support to the doctors who are in or choose to come to Colwood by supporting commercial centers and live-work options. We can lobby for them to come by supporting their needs, including a fairer system of payment that takes into account the time it takes to actually provide health services, not just fill in electronic records. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. David Grove, same question to you.
Thank you, Mike. I believe that municipalities have a leadership role to play in not only advocating with other levels of government on behalf of community healthcare, but also digging in deep to find new ways to provide these core community services. For example, communities on the Saanich Peninsula have been working with the Shoreline Medical Group for several years now, a not-for-profit primary care organization able to garner municipal support because it is a not-for-profit, not a private practice. Because I support taking an active role at the municipal level to help find solutions, I have signed the Accountability Partnership Pledge championed by the Village Initiative and Saunders Family Foundation. I am anxious to get started on positive solutions that take a collaborative and integrated approach to solving this community healthcare crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Kim Jordison, let's hear how you would address this.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. Our healthcare system is in crisis, and I'm committed to working, collaborating, and partnering with Island Health, healthcare service providers, and other levels of government and other municipalities to work together to integrate services under one roof, offering support for healthcare providers to be able to live, work, and in our community. We need to be able to offer housing, childcare, healthcare facilities to work out of, and office supports and financial resources, just as described in the Healthy West Shore initiatives that the Saunders Family Foundation is bringing forward as a suggested solution. I also think we should be compiling and maintaining a waiting list for community members without a doctor to take the stress off individuals looking for doctors on their own. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And it's no surprise that the last comments are going to come from Doug Kobayashi.
Oops, I can't get on, Mike. You have to turn me on, the video.
Coming.
Thanks very much, Mike. As a private citizen, I've been working together with the Saunders Family Foundation on their initiative to create the community healthcare support network. This is integrated all hands on deck approach to problem solving the primary care challenge that we're facing. The foundation has created a collaborative relationship with the WestShore Primary Care Society, the Thrive Social Services, and the Mccaskill Housing Society to help establish a new model of community-led health center. It's focused on delivering longitudinal, trauma-informed, and culturally safe primary care. As the team works together on the West Shore to increase local primary care capacity, they will build a playbook and toolbook that will be used by other BC communities. So we absolutely drew the difference between what is provincial and what is municipal. And it doesn't require the municipal funding. It is provincially funded. And in fact, the network team is meeting with the deputy minister tomorrow to discuss the project further.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Doug. And thank you, candidates. Cynthia, over to you. You're going to start us off with this next question. What specific actions do you want the City of Colwood to take to address climate concerns?
Thank you. I want Colwood to identify our wetlands, something I have raised several times as plans were made to develop roads and subdivisions in wetland areas originally identified in our OCP. Intact wetlands and climate mitigation through tree retention and valuation by qualified professionals will assist in providing better air quality and greater carbon sequestration. Quality buildings with incentives for reduced carbon footprints should be a part of our plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. David, please take 1 minute.
The science is in. The scale of the challenge is massive and affects every facet of community life. This struck me again recently while pulling invasive blackberry at Ocean View Park, led by the Friends of Havenwood. While struggling down and then back up the deep gully, I recognized how nearly impossible it is to access even that small piece of land to help support native plants. I would love to list the many steps we could follow to restore our air, land, and water, yet new strategies and efficient solutions appear frequently. The task of sorting, implementing, and sustaining our climate action efforts will require all hands on deck response. Making it easier to access and learn about climate action solutions should be a priority, enabling citizens to take action however and wherever they can. I would like to acknowledge Colwood City staff who continue to practice and grow strategies we already have in place. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Kim Jordison, please give us your comments.
Sorry about that. Oh, and there I go again. I believe the City of Colwood is already addressing or working to address climate change by ensuring we continue to both reduce energy and GHG emissions and be more resilient to the impacts of climate change. We need to lower emissions to meet provincial targets on all city-owned buildings and any future buildings and homes built in Colwood. Promoting the active transportation plan and pushing for light rail transit to get people out of their vehicles to move people quickly from the West Shore to Victoria. I believe we should also bring the concept of vertical farming to Colwood. Did you know that Vancouver Island only grows 5 to 10% of our own food? Emergency planning needs to be prioritized as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Doug Kobayashi, I'll invite you to give us comments.
Okay, some of the key actions I would implement include establishing a baseline metrics and setting realistic greenhouse gas target reductions throughout the city's operations. If you can't measure it, I mean, how the heck do we know where we are? And I would work towards reducing our carbon footprint by using alternative energy in our vehicle fleet and maintenance equipment as soon as financially feasible. I would absolutely, once we finalize our active transportation plan, I think it's a great plan. Love to get that implemented and promote it. Implement the municipal building retrofits, which are on the books right now. I'd also like to work with the school district, the Sioux School District, and to support their efforts right now in developing programs that will increase awareness and assist us in the mitigation and adaptation to climate change. I love our program right now for the incentives for residents for energy reduction, and I'd like to continue those incentives. And I see I got my time taken up, so I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And finally, Ian Ward, please, your comments.
Thanks, Mike. Building on the community-driven 2018 OCP project, there's an opportunity to again open up the proverbial tent and re-engage with the community on a city-led, community-focused initiative to mitigate and adapt to climate change. A healthy environment plan where we all have a role to play in ensuring the resiliency and prosperity of our community. We will begin by integrating climate considerations into community planning and later on at a granular level with integration into our service delivery and city operations planning, such as green buildings and city fleet conversion to electric, etc. The actions we can take are many, from the macro with responsible and green development to micro or individual changes such as water conservation through Indigenous plantings. Ultimately, however, we must work to and be confident in an overarching plan, complete, as Mr. Kobayashi said, with defined metrics and deliverables, and again, welcome the interest and expertise of our great community to ensure all stakeholders are able to contribute to their community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So that's 2 questions out of 4. We move on to the 3rd question of this round. And the first respondent will be David Grove. So David, affordable housing is no longer just a Victoria problem, it is a regional issue. What will you do to help alleviate this issue?
The housing crisis is nationwide. I trust solutions lie at many levels, starting here in Colwood with locally targeted projects designed to fit our local needs. I prefer the term acquirable housing, as it is inclusive without the implication of subsidy. We need to look at form and function, lot sizes, mix of accommodation types, safe and high efficiency energy systems, materials, and appliances, along with access to car share, electric vehicle charging stations, while locating the high density aspect of the solution, where it works and where it matters, how it flows into strong neighborhood nodes, new and existing, attractive places where people want to.
We had just a few seconds there where David timed out. Can we give you another 20 so that people can hear your response?
Can you tell me where I got cut out, roughly?
It was sort of your last couple of sentences.
I'll dive in here. I was speaking to various solutions, various building types, and where we need to locate the high density aspect of the solution. We need to put it where it works and where it matters and how it flows into strong neighborhood nodes, new and existing, that are walkable and attractive places where people want to live their lives.
Perfect, thank you. And I can trust that all the other candidates would like to have the same opportunity if their internet futzes like that as well. So
thank you.
Kim Jordison, please, your comments on affordable housing.
Thank you, Mike. Excuse me. I believe that we all need to work together to come up with ideas to address the housing crisis we're in. We need to work with all levels of government and explore partnerships to come up with innovative ideas. One idea might be loosening zoning on current properties that are on larger lots to build secondary suites for their children, or maybe implementing financial payback programs to get people into homes. I truly believe if we all work together, we can accomplish great things. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Doug, same question to you, please.
I agree with some comments that were made earlier. I think Colwood has done a pretty darn phenomenal job over the last 4 years on this side of the fence. I would look forward to working with both the private and the nonprofit housing sectors and other municipal governments to find some practical solutions that will best serve the people of Colwood today and well into the future. It starts with meeting the targets outlined in our Colwood's 2018 Housing Needs Report, which we've done a pretty darn good job on. It basically looked at the mix of housing needed by families. Ideas such as exempting nonprofit projects from property taxes and development charges, providing land for social housing, cutting red tape, and speeding up approval processes for social housing that meets the goals of the OCP, and even looking at modular construction are all options that should be examined. You can't develop and implement efficient and effective housing plans as part of a sustainable community unless you ensure the amenities and infrastructure are also addressed to meet future growth requirements. It's all connected.
Thank you, Doug. Ian, please give us your comments.
Thanks, Mike. I would concur that Colwood's done a reasonable job, but certainly I think there's an opportunity for us to continue to tap into existing funds from regional, provincial, and federal partnerships. Sault Ste. Victoria, for example, just recently received part of a $7.7 million investment from higher levels of government via the Green Municipal Fund's Sustainable Affordable Housing Initiative. So let's make sure we're at the table, and the next time there's money available, we access it. Longer term, I think we can innovate locally. We can create our own affordable housing program, potentially using inclusionary zoning requirements and a rezoning reserve fund to encourage and mandate contribution to affordable housing. Our history recently of granting OCP amendments time and again to developers has certainly enriched them. Why don't we formalize a program to ensure that any changes to our community plan enrich the community? Lastly, as the question states, it's a regional issue, and facing it requires a regional response. We need regional partners to engage on solutions. Colwood taxpayers can't go it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. And Cynthia, you get the last spot to comment.
Perfect. I'm going to continue my support for supportive housing to be located in Colwood, and alternative options need to be considered. I did some extensive research into the ownership options and found that housing advocates and city partnerships in owned homes could be shared with rent-to-own tenants who, once ready to move on, could release the home and take their accumulated equity with them to get their start without losing everything they paid in rent for the first few years. With the right partners, this could be a Colwood model that contributes to a hand up rather than a handout, helping young homeowners to get into the market with a viable down payment on their next free market home, and retaining the building to do this again and again. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. And Kim, you are going to be the first to answer our last core question, which is, let you get your camera up there. Colwood Council recent, so again, I did this in the first round. Full disclosure, this question relates to the council remuneration. I was the chair of the committee that recommended the increase, so I want to make sure that that's out there. Colwood Council recently approved almost a doubling of the remuneration to be paid to the new incoming council. Do you support this? Why or why not?
I absolutely do not agree with the recent decision to increase remuneration to be paid to the new incoming council. I know myself and many others made the decision to run based on the old remuneration amounts. And although I respect the work of the citizens that came forward to volunteer their time on this issue, I feel that they could have used some guidance to stay within the parameters that were provided. I feel the current remuneration is much too high and is disrespectful to our taxpayers with the times that we are currently in. I had agreed to a 30% reduction right now. I volunteered as a reserve constable. Friends have volunteered to coach sports teams, and we weren't paid. I feel that another review needs to happen, and from there, a lesser amount should prevail. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Doug Kobayashi, please, your comments.
I only have a minute, right? No, I do not support this. You know, we're seeing people across our community, there's, you know, young people, families, and seniors struggling to keep their heads above water right now. So if you're going to hit the reset on salaries, the process for doing this should be based on solid precedences. And, you know, the Union of BC Municipality Guidelines was somewhat used, but I don't think it was, you know, it wasn't absolutely detailed in what should have been done. You know, items like, for example, salaries right now, the CRD pays salaries to certain council members who attend regional meetings. Like, you know, for example, in 2020, the mayor received $26,000 from the CRD on top of his $32,000 he earned through the city of Colwood. Yet these important metrics weren't included when the report of the Colwood Council Remuneration Committee was sat down. And if elected mayor, I would take action to have a redo on this. I would repeal the decision and have a redo.
Time.
Remember, we are talking $500,000 over 4 years. That comes out of the pockets of taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Ian Ward, same question to you.
Thanks, Mike. You know, and while I laud the work that you and the rest of the committee have done on this file, at the end of the day, I have to echo what Mr. Kobayashi has brought forward, that I don't believe you were given a clear picture, or at least all of the data. You know, as he alluded to, the CRD monies paid to the mayor, for example, are not insignificant. Those tens of thousands of dollars here. So, you know, at the end of the day, I would say no. I would support a repeal and a review, or at least a professional review by a compensation expert, if anything, just to validate and assess what was missed in the decision making. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Cynthia Day, your comments, please.
The host needs to enable my video.
Hang on.
There we go. So I do not support the 85% increase, and it's specifically because even in all of our discussions, it's never been brought up at the table, even though we all know that the mayor receives $26,000 compensation for being at the CRD. There's other committees that pay as well, the Water Commission for one, and those are large enough amounts of money that they should be part of the consideration, because they're certainly part of the time that you take during a month to do the work. The workload of council is overwhelming at times, with little notice for major decisions and packed agendas with controversial decisions buried in hundreds of pages. So it could be improved by balancing our agendas. It could be improved by paying people for the number of committees that they serve on. But this particular outcome is not one that I could support, and I would support a review. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. And finally, to you, David.
I believe we need to revisit this question. The optics are poor. I'd support a review. If council remuneration has fallen behind, we may need an increase. If we attract more candidates to seek the job with a salary increase, perhaps we need an increase. However, in these days of high inflation, interest rates, housing prices, wage settlements for staff just around the corner, it would behoove us to carefully consider this apparent gluttonous thirst at the trough. A carefully crafted permanent approach that follows annual cost of living adjustments seems a reasonable solution. I personally chose to run for council with a good deal of public service sentiment in mind. I wasn't looking for a new source of personal income, and it would be great to have access to a group health and dental plan, though.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, all the candidates, for your comments on that. So we're now going to ask the candidates to answer from a set of randomly drawn questions, and we'll continue on alphabetically by asking Doug Kobayashi to go next. Candidates were provided with these 10 questions in advance, but they don't know which questions they will be asked. Google random number generator was used to determine which questions would be asked and in which order. It's the same for Group A. To get it to as many questions as possible, once a question has been asked twice during the evening, it will be removed from selection. And that happened in the first round. Candidates, once again, you will have 1 minute to answer each question, and you will see the raised hand from our timekeeper when you have 15 seconds left. Is everyone ready? Fantastic. So Doug, let's get your camera up. Doug Kobayashi. Excellent. So the first question to you, our neighborhood has a number of traffic safety concerns, and it doesn't feel like we're being listened to. If elected, how will you seek to answer citizens' complaints with appropriate follow-up and canvass neighborhoods before actions take place? You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. I will absolutely listen and respond to concerns articulated by our residents, because community engagement is one of the pillars of democracy and good governance. When we talk about performance-driven core services, it includes clear accountability for staff responses to public requests for service. And in some of these cases right now, with these, there seems that every street that we knock on right now, you know, the traffic is an issue. Speeding on roads is an issue. Unfortunately, traffic calming can't be used everywhere. But there are other ways of reducing the speeds, and I would include all of that in the review. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And I know everyone would like an opportunity to answer every question, but unfortunately, we just don't have the time for that. So the new question goes to Ian Ward. Ian. Get you up on the screen before I ask. Here you come. Excellent. Will you support and advocate for bike and pedestrian lanes? If so, where do you believe they are needed?
A great question, Mike. Our official community plan identifies mobility as a core component of future development planning, and we're seeing some of those recommendations taking shape in newer communities such as Royal Bay, with enhanced pedestrian pathways and bike lanes. However, we need to ensure that we continue to incorporate these in planning for our older neighborhoods. There is reference in the OCP, for example, to support the CRD's Active and Safe Routes to School program by working with Colwood schools to create a best routes map for students and families. Let's do this and formalize it, take it a step further by ensuring that these routes are cycle and pedestrian friendly, you know, when we can add the infrastructure to those areas. Lastly, facilitating cycle and pedestrian movement must form part of our integrated transit and transportation plan. In areas identified by the OCP as high density and transit hubs, we have to ensure people can access by foot, bike, and importantly, that accessibility is a focus for the mobility impaired. They're often forgotten, but accessibility has to be a key pillar of any of these transportation strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Cynthia, you're up next. Will you support the amalgamation of municipalities of Greater Victoria, including Colwood, into one municipality of Victoria?
Okay. Sorry. Trying to get to my.
Take your time.
Lost what question we're on. Amalgamation. Lost my question. Oh, there we go. All right. When we were under the CRD, our approvals were made without understanding our beautiful and unique environment. This led to the pollution of Esquimalt Lagoon and our need for sewers in that area. I don't think we would get any better results today, as the beauty of Colwood requires careful stewardship by those who know and understand our natural systems intimately. Keeping our residents informed is hard. And if you take that to the CRD level, it's a lot harder. Coming to council in Colwood takes a little bit of time. Trying to be heard at the CRD is almost impossible. So Colwood, no for me with amalgamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. David Grove, the next question to you. Please define how you would support sustainable arts and culture programming in Colwood and describe a specific funding model that you would endorse to make this happen.
Well, if I had a specific workable funding model for arts programming in Colwood, I would be broadcasting it to everyone and everywhere. We need to place the same value on the arts and culture that we place on the rest of our community's recreational programming. I acknowledge the notion that the arts survive only with subsidy. However, meanwhile, the benefits of studying and practicing, painting, dance, music, acting, writing, film, along with all the many support and production trades, have been well studied and shown to contribute to health and wellness. For instance, the skills I acquired as a fledgling concert pianist served me well as an independent business owner for 38 years. We must support the dedicated citizen groups who work to animate and enliven our community spaces with arts and cultural programming. As we build our capacity to showcase and celebrate, we will be in a stronger position to create community spaces that will serve as a local home for the arts. Thank you.
I did not know that about you, David. Perhaps you should put it in your opening story about your concert pianist career. Kim, you get the last question of round one. The Colwood Crawl is a long-standing problem, and despite the new Mackenzie Road interchange, the problem has not gone away. What are your ideas on how this can be fixed?
I believe this is a question about partnering again with other municipalities in trying to resolve this issue in the West Shore. It's not just a Colwood issue. I really believe in the LRT system, and I would push for that to happen and get people out of cars. There's also, I believe, a place up in the West Hills that's been left vacant for 2,000 parking spaces, and to be able to connect with this system. So I think that is something that I'm for, and I think we need to move towards getting that resolved and working with the Island Corridor Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. So all of the candidates in Group B have had a chance to answer one round of random questions. We're going to go through one more round, and then we will move on to closing statements for all candidates. So, Doug, we're going to start with you again. So we'll get you up on the camera. Excellent. So, Doug, property taxes are substantially higher for business than for residential. What are your views on this?
As you know, Mike, I'm a fiscal conservative when it comes to taxes. And
bring me into this.
I want to keep taxes low. And the only way we can do this is build an inclusive community is to actually diversify our tax base. You know, if we get more commercial here, we can actually bring down those ratios right now. You know, we have tried before to artificially do this ourselves, make the decision, but a lot of that tax base goes from residential or from business to residential. So we have to be very, very careful on this. So we can't continue to rely on our residential tax base because it is not sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Ian Ward, you get the next question. Ian, will you support and advocate for the expansion and continuance of sewer lines to get constituents of Colwood attached to the CRD sewer program?
Yeah, this is a challenging file, Mike, and one that's fairly new to me. But, I support infrastructure development across Colwood, and that includes sewer line access. However, when I'm in some of the legacy neighborhoods of Colwood, I'm hearing concerns about the lack of strategic planning on this particular issue. Residents have been given timeframes in the past that simply elapsed without further follow-up, vague and misleading information about timing, costs. It's not as simple as the question would make it appear. I chatted with someone on their doorstep the other day who said, they just spent in the 5 figures to upgrade their septic just a matter of months ago. So, to approach them now about, a wholesale sewer expansion in their neighborhood really isn't a feasible option. So a very difficult one, but one that I think can be addressed through strategic leadership and just communication, reaching out to those neighborhoods that are challenged with this and let them know the plan. What I'm hearing right now is that they don't believe there is one or that it hasn't been communicated to them. So we can and should do better in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cynthia, the next question up is for you. The Colwood crawl is a long-standing problem, and despite the new Mackenzie Road interchange, the problem has not gone away. What are your ideas on how this can be fixed?
Thank you. So Colwood has a developer-driven transportation plan, and it will be responsible for ever-increasing traffic congestion on local roads. Council approving a $6 million roundabout on Latoria at Veterans Memorial Parkway without considering the wetlands and the unstable soil conditions along Latoria Road is going to be a sinkhole for taxpayer funds. The intersection at Wishart Road and Latoria is likely to be more than the $6 million, as the peat bog there is greater than 5 meters in depth. And a major water line and a major sewer line are under the intersection. The best fix for the Colwood crawl is to have our own commercial and employment centers here in Colwood, facilitating alternate means of transportation. Creating safe corridors for accessible cycling and transit is a must. Thank you.
Thank you. David, let's continue the thoughtful comments. The question to you is, if there's one thing you could accomplish if you were elected or re-elected, and elected in your case, that would make a substantive difference in the lives of Colwood citizens, what would that be?
I would like to be the part of a team that restores trust in our local government. Citizens need to be heard. The concerns must become council's priority. I encourage the flow and vision of the Colwood OCP to rise organically from the ground up to establish strong policy and action.
Thank you, David. And Kim, thanks to the magic of Google, you also get to answer this question. If there's one thing you could accomplish if you were elected, that would make a substantive difference in the lives of Colwood citizens, what would that be?
My answer is very similar to David's. I would like to, if elected, visit all the different areas in Colwood and come up with wish lists and priority lists as to what their concerns are, what's happening in their neighborhoods, and to be inclusive by doing this in older neighborhoods as well as new neighborhoods, so that no one's left out and you hear from everybody. And we prioritize these lists and put them together and try and knock things off every year, and just engaging with the community and having someone to call on when they have issues and concerns. I just think that that's a key priority of mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And that brings us to the end of the random question section. Thank you, candidates. Holy smokes, this was a very ambitious evening to try and pack in all of you and all of these questions to inform our voters as to your positions. We've done it and we're only 10 minutes over time. So well done, everyone. You're all part of a great team. So we're now going to move on to closing statements. We'll start with 2 minutes per council candidate in reverse alphabetical order from what we had at the opening, followed by 3 minutes by mayoral candidates, also in reverse order. And so I would like to invite Ian Ward to get us started with your 2 minutes of closing remarks, please, Ian.
Thank you, Mike. So you've heard a variety of responses this evening from candidates seeking election or re-election, and I hope that you've received much of the information you need to make an informed decision. My campaign commitment to you is that of transparency, integrity, and communication. In the interest of the former, please note that following the close of this evening's event, I will publicly post my answers to the complete list of questions on my website, ianforcolwood.ca. On the subject of integrity, just today, Global News shared province-wide concerns about developer-funded campaigns and the growing concern about the impact this has on decision-making in communities across BC. We're not immune to these concerns here in Colwood. Thus, I'll restate publicly my published commitment to refrain from accepting any campaign contributions from developers who may come before council seeking amendments to the OCP, and I challenge all my fellow candidates to do the same. In the coming days, I will continue to visit you on your doorstep so that I may introduce myself in person and find out more about your views on Colwood and what I can do to realize the vision you seek for our city. We know that there are a great many positives about Colwood, and conversely, we also know that we're facing challenges. There are no quick fixes to the infrastructure and tax issues that have impacted many of us. However, there are short and long-term actions that can be implemented in a fiscally prudent way under the auspices of our OCP and guided by decisive leadership. I believe that this decisive leadership is on the ballot, both for mayor and for council, and that to effectively manage change, we need to see some change at City Hall. I urge you, my friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens, to be decisive and thoughtful with your vote on October 15th, and I humbly ask that you entrust me to be your voice on Colwood Council as we move Colwood forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Next up, we're going to invite back some folks from the round A of questions, beginning with Stewart Parkinson for his 2 minutes of closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Mike. I believe that over the last 4 years, I've contributed at the council table and the committee table, and I've tried to advance the interests of the city carefully, thoughtfully, and expeditiously. I'd like the opportunity to do so for another 4 years. I believe that I've grown and learned in my first term and will have even more to offer should I be reelected. I'm going to describe myself as stubbornly independent. I stick to my beliefs, I do my homework, I bring my own perspective to issues at the council table and the other areas where I've served, the Waterfront Committee and the Waterfield Rec being the two that I found most interesting and challenging. If elected, citizens can look to me for continued fiscal prudence. I won't be chasing the absolute bottom dollar. I will be looking for what's the most sensible long-term financial approach for the city on what it does. I'm going to ask all of you to carefully consider and choose your council on October 15th or at the early voting days. I think that the opportunities are there to select a council that would be as productive as the previous ones have been. And I look forward to serving on that. I take this opportunity to wish good luck to all the other candidates running and to thank the Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to participate tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you, Stuart, and you're welcome. Let's invite Misty Olsen for her closing 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you to everybody that is here tonight, logged in and watching the meeting. Your community is your extended family. It is an inviting place where you should feel comfortable speaking out, a place to feel supported, and a place of mutual respect. If elected, I am committed to creating a safe space for constructive thinking and respectful criticisms at the council table. I promise to be responsible with your tax dollars, to foster growth and supports for small business, to work towards responsible growth using the OCP as our guide, and to address the needs of our community as they are brought to the table. I am committed to working with you to build a better live, work, play community for all. I really do hope that you'll consider me for a seat on council, and please get out and vote on October 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. Stephen Mccaskill, let's hear from you.
Thank you. So before I begin my conclusion, I would like to take a moment to sincerely thank the mayor and council and city staff for their service to the community. Also, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event. I believe that I have clearly stated my platform and described some of the steps we need to take. Let me take a moment to summarize the future Colwood that I see. I envision a seaside community with stunning views and a variety of residential single detached home neighborhoods set alongside attainable residential options for young people, families, and seniors alike. I see a city that attracts employers who value inclusivity and sustainable business practices. It will have an efficient public transit network, and it will be a vibrant center for arts and culture. I envision walkable and rideable trail networks linking residents to work, school, shopping, and recreational options. I see green spaces in each neighborhood and areas set aside to protect and preserve important ecosystems. Most of all, I see my community as a role model to others, because we will have made the effort to include all demographics at the decision-making table. That's my vision for Colwood, and I believe it's attainable. In the remaining seconds, I want to briefly mention one of my passion projects. Colwood has an above average number of young people, and these kids are growing up in uncertain times. The news is full of headlines of catastrophic climate change, the housing crisis, inflation, crashing stock markets, wars, social unrest, and on it goes. Feels like a precarious time sometimes. Young people need strategies to help them regain some sense of control over the barrage of grim issues that just keep bearing down. If elected, I would like to establish a Colwood Youth Council. This would be a place for young people to develop leadership skills, providing a constructive venue to learn and take positive action. This approach has worked well in larger centers. The world is changing and changing rapidly. To address these issues, we need different perspectives at the table, and we also need people with vision and resolve. We certainly can't waste time being negative, divisive, or backtracking. I hope you will vote for positive, forward-thinking voices on council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stephen. That is the first 4 of our council candidates. And the second batch of our 8 council candidates will begin with Kim Jordison for her 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mike. From my travels around the community, what I've heard is people are wanting a change at the council table. They're wanting their voice to be heard and respected. The residents of our community want a shared community vision and not just the vision of one person. There is little to no trust in some of our current council, and we need to rebuild relationships with our community. We need to elect people that have integrity and values, that want to work for the community and not just for developers. The people of our community matter to me. I would love the opportunity to represent our community at the council table. Good luck to all my fellow candidates in their campaigns, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to all of you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And because I know he knows the alphabet, Dean Jansen knows he's up next.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you to the Chamber for all their hard work on this. We've had a great term, and I've really enjoyed myself, and I've learned a lot. And I'm ready for 4 more years of this, and I'm up to the challenge. What you can expect from me and my commitments: community safety. I will work hard. I understand that space, and I will help deliver that for our community. Without safety, we really don't have much to build on. Thoughtful, sustainable growth. We've done a great job up till now, and I think we can continue to work in that direction with acres and acres of green space coming to the community through some of the developments at Royal Bay. Active transportation, working hard to achieve our goals in this regard for all forms of transportation. I will advocate strongly. Parks improvements. These are important to us, protecting our green spaces. I will work hard to leverage some of those spaces for our future generation, and recreational opportunities. We have lots of opportunities coming at Royal Bay South, and I plan to work hard with local community groups and help bring some improvements. I'm no politician. I'm just a hardworking resident, and I've been a police officer for a long time. And in essence, I will work hard to continue to serve the residents of our community. And once again, I humbly ask for your vote on October 15th. And don't forget the early polls on the 5th and the 12th. You want to know more about me, you can look me up at deanjantzen.ca. Even better, play around on Google there and look up the barbecue chip bandit. That'll show you a little bit about me. All right, I'm on Facebook at Councillor Jantzen and Dean for Colwood at gmail.com. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to many more of you in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Dean, and the barbecue chip bandits. And rounding out our esteemed panelists of council candidates is Cynthia Day.
I need you to start my video.
Here we go.
There we go. So I can't help, I've got to throw in my answer to the question about your one thing. Because for me, it's to provide excellent, easily absorbed information about Colwood's issues so that our citizens feel informed and want to be involved in solving the problems democratically. Democracy lives or dies based on the quality of information the public receive. And I want to share what I know, even if that's not always easy. We need more than 1 or 2 volunteers on a committee. We need some town hall meetings where information can flow both ways to a council that values the input. That's a big idea and a difficult thing to achieve. I really want to thank the Chamber for putting on these events, and I'm pretty surprised to see how many other groups are also putting on events. That's wonderful. Probably 25 years ago was my first Chamber All Candidates meeting, where I was helping others or learning about other people being involved. We really need to have all of our collective brains working together to solve some of these issues. And the only way we can do that is with accountability and accessibility. So parks and trails forever, and a good green space. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. And because it appears I don't know the alphabet well, I skipped over David Grove. So David, you get to wrap it up.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, my fellow candidates, and all of you out there in TV land. I acknowledge I am new to this government realm, though as I've been involved in nonprofit boards, chambers of commerce, business ownership, and management for over 40 years, I feel as though I am prepared with a versatile skill set that's needed for effective representation, both responsive and responsible. My pledge to the people of Colwood is that I will deliver my best effort through open, honest, and transparent governance. And in the same manner, those firefighters reached out to my family some 27 years ago by offering a powerful hand up. I extend my hand in partnership and collaboration to serve and steward this community for everyone in it. Because at one time or another, we all need help and support of some kind, and no one should be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That is our council candidates, which leaves us only with our 2 mayoral candidates. So they each get 3 minutes, and we will begin with Rob Martin.
Thank you. In my opening, I talked about what we had already done as a city. But what about the future? From a transportation standpoint, we need to continue working on our transportation networks. We need to look at expanding Machosen Road from 2 lanes to 3 lanes to possibly 4 lanes in sections. We need to continue to invest with BC Transit on the rapid bus program that's happening presently, and we will continue to work in 2023. We are a year or 2 away from the province investing in a full feasibility study for a WestShore ferry. We have to have a council in place that is passionate about that so that that can move forward. If we don't move the ferry concept forward in this next term, that land disappears forever. We need to be focused on that. If we do not, it's gone. We need to continue to work on we need to continue our relationships with the school district, building community amenities for our children that can be used while they're attending school and for the community out of school hours. The example I use is the $500,000 investment that we had at Dunsmuir at the tennis courts that we are working in conjunction with the school district. We need to continue that plan. We need to build a green, sustainable community moving forward because we are building a community for families. I have been honored to have been given the privilege of being your mayor this past 4 years, and I do hope you will consider allowing me the opportunity to do it for the next 4. If you're looking for more detailed information about my platform, I encourage you all to go to martinformayor.ca. And as other candidates have spoken, I sincerely thank all the candidates this evening for putting their name forward. It is always a really difficult thing to do, especially in the environment we're in this year, clearly. And I certainly appreciate the work of the WestShore Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And finally, Doug Kobayashi with his final comments.
Thank you very much, Mike. And again, thank you to the WestShore Chamber of Commerce for providing this venue to engage with the public. And thank you for everyone who tuned in, and an excellent job by all the candidates here. I really enjoyed listening to your responses. We move forward here. We have a great official community plan. And as we look forward to the review of our OCP in 2023, it will be more important than ever to listen to our community members, rebuild trust, and effectively steward community interests ahead of private interests as we chart the healthiest way forward for the people of Colwood, including housing options that support the diversity of our residents, healthcare and social programs that will meet growing local needs, active, integrated, and achievable transportation solutions that will take more cars off the road, and address the existential threat of climate change that must remain at the top of mind in all our municipal processes because our shared future depends on it. We have an opportunity to embrace positive change and build a better Colwood for everyone. I hope I can earn your trust and your vote to lead us through the next 4 years as your mayor. And I thought to myself, I'd never make promises, but there is one promise I will make. I promised that I would serve out my full 4 years as your mayor. I would not seek senior office. And at this point, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. So candidates, please feel free to turn your cameras back on as we wrap the evening up. Thank you so much to all of you for appearing this evening and for running our democracy. Our democracy only works because of you. And of course, the second part is that everyone who can votes. And hopefully all the folks listening today and this evening will do so. I know we're all very lucky to have such an accomplished and engaged panel of candidates to vote for. I'd like to thank Julie Lawler, our executive director, for having put the evening together and for her camera operations tonight. For Ingrid Vaughn, the chamber president, for her timekeeping tonight. For Chris Burge, a former board member, for his technical support. And thank you again to all of you for being here. Thank you for tuning in to learn about the candidates and their platform. Advanced voting day takes place on October 5th and October 12th, and voting day is October 15th. Please go to colwood.ca for more information. And that concludes our evening. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste.